Okay, so I'm going to first of all talk about this locomotive, which is a 264 4MT Hornby Dublo model, and yeah, quite interesting locomotive actually. So let's have a quick look at it. You can see that in the camera. It features a die-cast metal body, and it operates on a three-rail system. So the whole of the body, the wheels and the chassis is on one polarity, and the actual middle rail is the opposite polarity, which is picked up by these shoes here. And you're probably wondering why I find these things so interesting. Well, I'll just go for the history of this model quickly. So Hornby Dublo was founded as a company in 1938 as part of the already existing Meccano company. It was set up by Frank Hornby by Frank Hornby in 1908. In 1952, most model railways either produced a very small tank engine, there's a bodied one there, or they produced a sort of nice glamorous looking express locomotive. But there wasn't anything really in the middle that was like a mixed rate locomotive like this one. And so there was a bit of a gap in the market. So Hornby Dublo in 1953, they started to design this model. And by 1954, it was actually out in production, and apparently it sold incredibly well. And yeah, so you can pick many of these up on eBay for about, I don't know, £30 or so. Of course, they don't work on modern rail like we're sat on here, but yeah, they are fantastic things in themselves. So the things I love about them really, particularly on this model, is obviously it's made of metal, so it's got a decent amount of weight to it. It's not a flimsy thing. It's meant to be chucked around by children. It is a proper toy. I mean, if you look at the wheels, they're pretty coarse, really. You know, quite big flanges on them, quite chunky. And you've got this fantastic Wolf valve gear, and it looks really good, but it's not delicate. It's nicely put together, and considering that this model is probably about 60 years old, it still works remarkably well, as you'll probably see in some of my other videos that I will be posting fairly soon. The other things I like about them is they are relatively simple. So we will in future videos open one up, but it's just basically got it's just an armature with a big magnet at the side and a couple of pulls coming across there, which makes it operate it. And so it works just basically on a simple DC system. So you've got the outer rails are one polarity, and then you have a middle rail, which doesn't exist on here yet, that picks up the shoes on the outside. And yeah, it's really, really a lovely thing actually. So in 1959, Hornby Dublo actually started to move over to two-rail. So this was produced as a two-rail model from 1959. So I mean, you could argue that modern models are much better, they're much more detailed, but I don't know, I think these things have a level of authenticity that they lack because they're made out of metal and plastic, whereas these are just made out of metal. And it's a very well designed thing actually. You think this, you know, this has been played with a lot, and yet I've tested it with a battery and it still works absolutely beautifully. And also it's based, when it was manufactured, it's actually based on the locomotive that was operating at the time. It's not like now when you produce models and there are locomotives from, you know, 50, 60 years ago. This was a contemporary model of the time. So there are some negatives with collecting this stuff. I mean, first of all, the track. The track is beautifully made from rail and tin plate, and it's quite easily assembled and taken apart, but because it's a toy, it looks a bit unrealistic, I think. and the geometry of the track is, you know, it's got very sharp radius curves. The points are very sort of sharp and don't look terrifically realistic. And also the rolling stock. Now there's nothing wrong with the rolling stock, but it is all, again, all metal. So like you get things like this for these coaches, and these coaches, they have a sort of like they're basically made out of tin. So you've got these sort of like cast metal bogies with the wheels on them, but yeah, they're all tin. They're not terrifically detailed, and over time they kind of rust. So the plan is to convert some later Hornby coaches to actually work with with this type of locomotive. But I don't want to do anything too radical to these locomotives. I want to keep them as original as possible. So everything stay original on them. Just maybe clean them up a little bit, maybe a bit of painting on them just to make them look nice again. So the other benefit of more modern coaches is they tend to run a bit smoothly. They have nicer sort of bearings in the actual wheels, whereas these are a little bit rough. They're okay, but they're not amazing. Yeah, and this, I think this is quite an old model, this one. Again, it's made out of tin plate. It's a brake van, and you can see the Hornby Dublo couplings, which are quite different to the modern couplings on Hornby. So the plan is, which I'll be going over in the next few videos, is to turn this into 3-rail track. Now the key to that is, this is double O gauge, this is N gauge. So the middle rail will be made from N gauge, slotted in there, and all the points and crossovers and things will be built from this track. So be buying in no points as completed items. They're all going to actually be built up from scratch, so that this operates correctly on it. And in the future videos, I'll go over how I'll be doing that. But yeah, I'm quite passionate about these things actually, because they are part of our history, and I think they deserve to be preserved and kept working for as long as possible. So that's what I'll be working on in the next few months. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.